Good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of the COMIT Happy Hour. We've been running these now since early March. We were initially doing them on a weekly basis. We now do them every 2 weeks. This is a virtual pub-style environment for a friendly chat about hot topics over a beer. So grab your drinks. We'll progress. A bit about COMIT. COMIT is a collaboration platform. We've been around now since 2003, bringing together owners, contractors, vendors, research and development through academia. We get involved in projects, and projects could be member-in-kind funded or funded elsewhere. People on the call today, joining us on the panel for presentations, we've got Sandy, we've got Hugh and Scott. Sandeep and COMIT go back quite a long way. We've done a number of projects together, and we'll talk a little bit more about what they're up to at the moment later. But I'll move on. I want everybody to ask questions. Please ask questions, the more the merrier. We've got an opportunity at the end to ask some questions. Most of you on the call, I know, will be familiar with how to do this. You've got an opportunity to either raise your hand or type a question into the question box, and I'll read them out once we get to the Q&A at the end. Okay, a little bit about COMIT's productivity initiative. It asks the question, what does productivity mean to you? It looks at whether you've got the means to improve productivity, what else is out there making a difference in other businesses and organizations. And for those that do want to progress and get further with productivity improvement, COMIT's running an initiative that's established Commit to Productivity, and that looks at creating enablement for improvement and the opportunity to develop projects. And if you want to get involved in the current initiative, then please reach out and chat with myself. The areas that we're currently looking at cover everything from project controls right the way around to emerging systems and tech. And as you can see, there's quite a few areas that would be of interest to anybody involved in capital projects. So let me just move on. I've got a slide freeze. Before I go any further, I want to just run the first poll question. I've actually only got one poll question today, but let me open the polls up and ask that question. This is a sort of a break the ice rather. So, can everybody see the question? Okay. Which stock share would you invest in during the current climate? Can everybody see that? It's good to see that nobody's ticking the cold button. Okay, another couple of seconds. Thanks everybody for voting. That's pretty near 100%. Thank you. Let me share that. 33% Tesla, pretty good. 50% Apple. That's interesting. Not so many in Boeing, and absolutely nothing in coal. Guys, what are your thoughts on that then? Scott? Can you hear me, Scott?
Yeah, sorry, I wouldn't unmute then. I think I'll be investing in coal then. Must be pretty cheap, right?
Yeah.
And selling Apple very soon.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, guys?
Yeah, surprising Boeing was so high on that, considering air travel is not that popular at the moment.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. So, our main session today is change detection and impact assessment in construction. And whilst we know about changes in a construction project, there's probably not one project that goes without a change. Changes can be necessary at any stage in an infrastructure or building project, as well as yielding direct and indirect rework costs and program disruption. The increased material wastage and knock-on effects causing further errors and rework make the post-project approval and apportionment of change-related costs complex and highly contentious. Anybody that's been involved in projects during their career and seen project overruns, it can often be a bun fight. This presentation will give an overview of the current efforts to bring automation in detecting changes and assessment of their impacts using machine learning, impact models and change visualization. Now, it's brought to us today by Enable, and the team consists of Scott, Hugh and Sandy. Let me introduce the team. From left to right, we've got Scott. Scott's a digital delivery manager, information exchange. Scott has experience with supporting BIM and asset information strategies at corporate level, working with tender teams and other operational sectors, sharing knowledge and learning from best practices implemented successfully. Then we have Hugh and Harris. Hi, Hugh. Hugh is a survey digital specialist. Hugh has a strong experience in emerging spatial technologies, geospatial systems and urban renewal projects. He has experience with GIS systems development and design of database strategies, monitoring and improving database performance and capacity. And then we've got Sandy. Sandeep's the founder of AI and Heuristics. Sandeep has 20 years of international experience in technology, telecoms and finance sectors in small to large multinationals. Sandeep's having worked in 3 startups. Sandeep founded Enable My Team. Enable My Team has been associated with COMIT from the very beginning, going back to the company's founding 10 years ago. Okay, guys, I'm going to hand over to Scott first.
Thank you, Stuart.
Let me give you control. Okay, you are now the presenter.
Show my screen. Okay, thank you, Stuart, and welcome everybody. Hope everybody's well, and we're looking forward to going through a bit about our business, some current business operation information, and some aspirational scenarios and some delivery products that we're working on. So I will jump straight in with introduction. So as Stuart said, I'm the digital delivery manager for Enable My Team. I've come from an engineering and land surveying background. I've been in the industry about 15 years now, working on medium to large civil infrastructure projects mainly. I've migrated over to building information management and asset information management, and now I'm trying to support the industry that we know and love as best we can through the implementation of the digitization. Hugh?
Yes, and as Stuart introduced, my name is Hugh Harris. I'm a digital survey specialist with a background like Scott in land surveying and civil engineering, with experience in projects in land development and urban renewal projects, and also have an interest in how we can improve the industry and processes and make it that our projects are more efficient. So the agenda today, so we'll talk a bit about Enable My Team, and then we have a couple of problem overviews that we'll dive into. We have 2 scenarios that our research has shown from real life projects, and then we'll talk about the impacts of those problems, and then jump into the impact analysis, followed by some solutions that we can see, and then we'll go to the questions.
So about us, so we Enable My Team. We are an engineering technology company. So we support the industry with software as a service or some consultancy roles on live projects. So we're very interested in assets in general. That's how we started in the civil engineering industry, supporting the large projects. We are looking to evolve from that base, that core. So we've implemented, we're supporting a few projects through automation, through machine learning. We're working on some very interesting projects with some of the network rails and alikes in the industry. We have about 8 projects running at the moment, where we have consultants and whatnot supporting. And we are also international, where we're supporting other projects. So it's a good time during the COVID to be part of the digital journey, and we hope we can give you some ideas during this discussion, I suppose. So as we go forward, a bit about ourselves, a bit about the company solutions. If there's any questions, we answer a lot at the end, but I think you can put your hand up, as Stuart mentioned, and we can answer some as we go. We try and monitor the board as we go. So some of the projects again. So these are some of the clients we're supporting on some of the big infrastructure projects in the UK at the moment. And the use cases or the business case differs slightly. So some of the rail sector jobs that we're in, there's a lot of asset information due to the client's requirements. Assets are becoming more and more embedded in how you deliver a project, how you capture information, how you store it, how you then return it over to the operator or maintainer of these big projects and schemes. We're looking at real-time detection from different data sources, be that point clouds, photogrammetry, or just integrating with different streams of data as we go through the life cycle of projects. So the problem. So we currently are working on a innovation research package with some core partners, some JV partners at the moment, one of which is Skanska, and there's a few others in the joint venture working and looking at this problem. The problem is, as the title of the webinar suggests, is change. So we submitted our what we see as change, the problem, the root cause, and our proposed solutions. And we've been active in the project now for about 6 months. We've come some way into finding some root causes and some of our solutions, some of our existing business products and how they can be integrated within, and then shoot for the stars, I suppose, and try and see how far we can go, and then wrap that up. I think we've got about 10 months remaining of that. So then we can look to continue that journey and support projects further. And just before we start, so I just wanted to mention some of the information is live project. We're taking a snapshot of the industry and then of some project data that we've been supplied, but we're not suggesting in any way that all contracts, all of the industry is bad. I suppose it's is how some of the data
worst case scenario
that we've obtained leads to a worst case scenario, and how much that impacts one project is vast. So from a little bit of research here on the screen, you can see some numbers. So you can see the UK construction projects exceed their cost estimates by 30%. 77% of those are completed 40% later than expected, and then 50% of delays attributed to rework. Rework is client instructions or errors, non-conformances. And as these massive, huge projects like HS2 just keep growing, scale it's just enormous at the moment. We need to continue the efforts to rein that change in, or it's going to become practice. It's going to become business as usual potentially as we go forward through these huge programs. So I'll hand over to Hugh. He's going to take us through some of the scenarios.
Yep. So scenario one, the first scenario is client change or client instruction that leads to the change. These changes required that we found to the cable management system on the projects that we were researching. This came about from two contractors working in isolation. So they were both working on their separate designs, and then the client found that there was scope gaps between the two designs, and this resulted in a workshop to identify these scope gaps and work out from the collaboration between the two design teams what change was required from that. And this resulted in major changes required to the cable management system, which we will now go into in a bit more detail, because we found that there was a lot of ripple effects from this scope gap at the start of the construction. And so next slide. So here we found this was what led us down the garden path of the effects of this change. So the design drawing revision. Here we can see the design revision history for one set of drawings that include the cable management system. This is just a small snapshot, as Scott said, of one part of the project. However, it has provided us with a lot of detail and data to support and highlight problems that occur within the sector. And so as you can see, this set of drawings has gone through about 18 different revisions, and we found that this was over about 3 years a timeline. So now what we've done on the next slide, we have created a timeline of the revisions, and we've also included from our background research the project manager instruction dates. So then we can see the time from when the instruction was given to how long it took to the revisions to actually come into practice. So as we can see here, day 0, the C1 revision drawings were issued, and that will be our reference point for everything else. And then, as Scott has put up on the screen now, the design workshop was undertaken 186 days later from the issue of the first set of drawings. So they took 186 days to realise after that first construction happened that there was an issue. And now in orange is the PMI instructions. So 29 days later, a PMI was issued after that workshop. And then from here, we progressed to another PMI, which was acceptance of the scope within that workshop. And then 157 days later, the CMS drawings were revised as per that PMI 1, which is quite a lot of time. And then we go through and we can see that there were more PMIs issued, and yeah, we can speed that up. And so what we want to highlight here is just the time between PMIs being issued and the drawings taking, and that just flow-on effect of the information downstream from the designers all the way down to subcontractors. And what is interesting to note here, as you can see on the PMIs 4 and 5 were issued one after another, and you think that the designers and the drawings would relate to those updates all in one go. However, it took another 40, 30 and 23 days consecutively to update those drawings, and it's just a very inefficient process. And then so the next, anything to add on that?
Just whilst we're investigating, we've been trawling through the information on the project, and we found the one point at which site information was retained back to the design was at the end. Can't quite see the days now. It's 1,017 days, I believe. After that, the as-built information or the red line information from this suite of drawings for this scope started coming back into the design life cycle or the design history. So as we were on site, we were researching and digging around the paperwork. There was, I think it was design manager, senior design manager, and a construction engineer that was also having similar issues. This was from Hill Valley Projects. So we took a video. We asked if it was okay to show it. So we just wanted to play this video for you now. So I think this sums it up very nicely.
I'm ready to try to make sense out of all the madness. The place was boarded up, shut down, so I broke in and borrowed some newspaper.
I don't get it, Doc. I mean, how can all this be happening? It's like we're in hell or something.
No, it's Hill Valley, although I can't imagine hell being much worse. Oh, Edie, I'm sorry, boy. The lab is an awful mess. Oh, boy. Obviously, the time continuum has been disrupted, creating this new temporal event sequence resulting in this alternate reality.
English, Doc.
Here. Let me illustrate. Imagine that this line represents time. This is present, 1985, future, past. Prior to this point in time, somewhere in the past, the timeline skewed into this tangent, creating an alternate 1985. Alternate to you, me, and Einstein, but reality for everyone else. Recognize this?
Right, so hopefully that explained it better than what we can. So just to lighten it up a little bit, as it's Friday Beer Club. So I think very applicable scene of how if the construction on site has begun and that information is not being relayed back to design team, to the project managers, then when subsequent instructions come to change any part of that design, your site and your design team can go off in different timelines, as Dr. Brown was explaining. So if it was applicable and good and lighthearted for Friday, it's what we're seeing in the data. There is information that's coming back. It's not all cases. It's this specific case with CMS that's caused a lot of issues. There's a lot of interconnecting factors when it comes to CMS. So a lot of the tray work can feed a lot of different services. So the repercussions of this can be huge, and the change can carry on and on and on, like our fishbone timeline highlighted. So then we found some more information. So from the PMI workshops, there was some markup drawings that highlighted between one contractor and another how the tray, the services needed to be installed and laid out. So once they agreed that, this PMI then kicked off and it started a snowball effect potentially. So a year later from this workshop, we've got a screenshot here of the coordination model. So it's showing that the coordination model is being worked and it is a good environment and it's being shared, but that markup of what the two contractors wanted hasn't made it to the design model, or the model has changed. We're not quite sure. The investigation is still ongoing. We also found some laser scan survey that was 390 days afterwards. So you can also see the impact here, or the representation here is also slightly different. So this is 390 days after this markup. You can see some similarities. They're re-engineering potentially as they go, but the design model is not keeping up with site, or site is behind. We believe it's a collaboration of the two, and the confusing part is where the information delay is a factor for sure. So moving on to scenario 2.
Yeah, so scenario 2 is another change that comes from non-conforming works. So NCRs, or non-conforming work, is failure to comply with the design during the construction phase. So we have found a scenario on a project where the design was different to what was being built and what was constructed on site. We couldn't identify the exact cause of this non-conforming work. However, we have highlighted a few potential causes here, as studied through the project data did not reveal that. So one is, which design revision was used? Was it right at the time of construction? So as what was highlighted on scenario 1, there can be many revisions of the drawing, and those revisions can be issued as for construction. So if a subcontractor gets the revisions and doesn't have the latest ones, then that can lead to non-conforming work. Next slide. Poor communication. Oh, sorry, go back. Poor communication downstream to appointed subcontractors can lead to non-conforming work, and also subcontractors can cut corners as they can be under a lot of pressure, and also poor supervision and presumably no quality assurance during construction. And this has resulted in our case study, incorrect alignment of an internal wall, which is 380 mils out, which has subsequently obstructed a service supply access void from key room above. And so here we can see the BIM design, which shows the access void from above, and this was checked, and it was designed properly to show that there was actually no clash, and a clash detection was done, and this proved that it was designed properly and that the work was in fact non-conforming as it was different to this design. And then the next slide will show the what was actually built, and we have highlighted that the void will in fact clash with the blockwork wall that is down below. And then that has the change has come about from having to fix that and go back to what was designed, and which has impacted a lot of other issues that we will go into.
So the impact review of that. So we're going to look at scenario 1. There's a lot of data there that we can dive into. So the investigation led us to a recovery program plan. So on the project, they've been working away to recover that. So as you can see here, this is for the one PMI example, changing the CMS again. So this is very manual, it's very labor intensive. It is, if you're not in the industry, or potentially if you are and you're not a planner, you're not involved in their meetings, this is quite complicated to take a look at and figure out where exactly we are. So you see they're trying to recover the program here, they're getting slips, and it's important to highlight here that this isn't a holistic look at all the services and all the things that could be impacted if there is a change such as the CMS, because it's quite important installation. So a lot of this impacts other services. There are critical path moments within these plans, and they do capture some of the other works that are going on in locations, but potentially not always the disciplines that should be incorporated. If we look further into the information, so we've got our CMS instruction. So we can see that there's obviously negative impacts to labour, to cost, obviously to time. Health and safety can become jeopardised if you're scrambling to get that program back in alignment. And then you've got your client relationship, so that can become stressed if you're not performing or they believe you're not performing, etc. We can also see, following the data, that this can impact your design specification. So there's electrical calculations that are related to the cable traying, there's fire calculations, earthing calculations, and then if you're punching new holes to install new services because you haven't got the room, you're going to affect the structural calculations. This is going to lead you on to a bad handover testing commissioning program. But then as we're investigating this, we could also see the power and the benefit of some of our solutions and work that we do in the industry at the moment. So we do a lot of asset information database and inventories. So we could look at our data and we could see the relationships between CMS. We could see the relationship between those services, the cabling. It has source and information. It has a lot of impact and effect upon all the subsequent end devices and assets. So with a relational based database, you can investigate this a bit further, a bit deeper, and you can start to apply some of them back to the program with potential solutions coming up, I suppose, which is where we come to now. So we're going to continue with the solution. There's some that we're currently invested in, some that are delivering, some that are delivered, and there's some that are proof of concepts that we're working on with other partners, etc. So our first innovation, we have built our own hardware. It's digital Lidar. So the purpose here, or the reasoning why, was we can control that connection from the data capture to the software architecture. So we can build it in a way that satisfies our pipeline solutions. We can manipulate that data in a way that best works for us if we have control of hardware and the technology inside of that. Then that kind of stemmed from one of the beginning projects of Enable My Team, which was within the Crossrail scheme. There was a project to install all the fit-out services for the tunnels. So I was involved in the capture, but more importantly, the recognition of those panels that make up the tunnel rings and where to drill automatedly, where to drill a hole to then fix the CMS, again, CMS, within the tunnel. So continued developing those solutions. So we're currently doing with Network Rail an end-to-end automated processing pipeline. We're doing asset recognition. So we're doing segmentation of laser scans. We're doing the recognition of assets, creating services automatically. Next slide takes us further into that. So we call this platform Atlas. So Atlas can also stream very huge point clouds. So what we do is we layer it. So it's a web-based platform that allows you to view very large data sets, as these are very long linear point clouds. You can visualize that on a GIS platform, and you can stream it, layer it, so you're only seeing the 50 meters in front of you that you're interested in. Otherwise, that just affects your bandwidth, etc., and slows your work down, your productivity down. So these solutions are cloud-based, and there's no software or hard drives or none of the hardware to install. We can also, as you can see from the images, we can do our detection, and we can look for any clashes, and we can separate key features within the rail environment. And then we have another subsection of this is the 3D model viewer, so we can integrate with CDEs and EDMSs to stream assets in. Obviously, API calls, etc. Not a software specialist, I'm an engineer, but keeping a beat on it, it's definitely the way that the industry, and especially ourselves, are going. We have also pulled information, as I was saying, from the EDMS. So we're starting to join the dots, bring everything together. So we've got Atlas, we've got the AIM system, we've got the 3D model viewer, and we've got all the integrations, which leads us on nicely to our solution for scenario 1.
So yeah, you're probably thinking, how are we going to get those solutions into real life practice? And so what we've done is taken our lovely fishbone diagram from scenario 1 and incorporated points where we can incorporate those solutions. So for the digital Lidar, after day 0, where the construction revision C1 drawings were issued, the digital Lidar can be harnessed and put into practice. So the faster digital capture utilizing advances in scanning applications can be used. This means that we can capture field site progress during regular reviews, inspection as construction progresses. This means that digital processing pipelines can be automated with the raw data into customized outputs, and this can achieve multiple things, which include improved awareness of the live site environment as construction progresses, can improve decision making during the change estimation, which will reduce impact to change, desktop drawing surveys, and reduces volume and impact of non-conforming work.
The BIM viewer, so EMT's BIM viewer. So thinking of a solution here that freezes the designs, maybe a wrong terminology, but just put that notification there of when you get an instruction. It notifies everybody that's involved with that design, or it notifies people, the subcontractor, the sub-agent, agent that are involved in the site installation works that are currently live, like the CMS tray installation, and it notifies them when that change is coming. There's revisions of drawings coming, so that will improve the knowledge, and that will reduce, again, hopefully the NCRs, the project team and subcontractors all in alignment. Like, yes, work can continue, work can stop, but everybody will know the current drawing that they should be working to. And then integrated reporting, where we can use our artificial intelligence, machine learning. This will be one of the harder parts to do, because it is all based on data. How quickly can we get into a project, set up asset management, make sure we've got all the data channels in place, so then we can start teaching machines to learn this. But if that is done correctly, you can set up your asset database with relationships to areas, work packages, people. When that's linked together with a document management system, you can then notify those specific people when a document revision comes in. So that will also help with the communication, stop siloed works, etc. So we believe this would improve the decision making. It would reduce the silos, team communications would be vastly improved, the knowledge, etc. And then time, cost, hopefully, all the surveys are done, etc. And we can hopefully get the data to start backing up our solution on this one. So that's it, surprisingly. So hopefully lots of questions. If there's anything we can elaborate on or we went too quick, please let us know. I'm happy to answer anything. Thank you.
Brilliant, thanks guys. Let me bring Sandeep back in as well. Sandeep, can you, there you go. Okay, unmute. Yeah, that was very enlightening, thank you. Change, been around for quite a while, it's not going to go away soon. We have a number of questions here, and I think the first one I'm going to ask is, so change management issues in construction are often related to processes, people, and industry culture. Is that something that can be facilitated by technology? Who wants to take that one? Scott?
Yes, yeah. So change is facilitated by culture and people. Technology is there to support people, I believe. The culture, as you know, in construction can differ from period to period, from week to week. I think technology isn't affected by that. If you can set up your technology properly, it can help you with your culture. Let's say that the worst case, there's health safety incident. I think technology is not going to be too affected by that. It's going to learn and be there to support you through situations where you need information, etc. People make decisions now based on information. Current climate, obviously, there's a lot of decision making based off of information. There's a lot of U-turns, but there's a lot of decision making supported by specialist bodies, etc. Anything else to add? Your point of view?
Just saying, with technology, if you can create a framework, then that can help with managing the change, then I think that will people will get on board with that, and hopefully, yeah, it will improve and reduce the impact.
Okay, Sandeep, do you want to come in on any of this? You've been around change and technology for quite a while. Oh, we can't hear you. Can we hear you? Yes, we can. Go on. No, you've gone on mute again.
What was that about technology?
Yeah. That's about right. No, Sandeep, you let me try and how's that? We still can't. No. Sandeep?
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, I wasn't able to unmute myself for some reason. No, that's a great question. I don't think what we're saying is that technology alone can solve this. Certainly it's a wider issue, bigger issue. But technology can be an enabler. It can facilitate collaboration, and so it's not going to make decisions for you. So decisions are going to be made still by the people around change and around process. And but what technology can do is give better information and timely information and more collaboration, and that should hopefully result in better decision making.
Sure. Okay. I'm going to bring in Fran. I'm going to unmute you, I think, if I can. Let me see if I can bring you into the group, because I know you've had your hand raised now, and I think you want to. Let me just bring you in. Fran, you should be able to unmic, unmute, and ask a question. Fran, are you there? No, okay. Well, Just give Fran a moment to unmute. I've got a question here, which I'm going to ask. Scott, I know you touched on this a little bit earlier, but are you seeing any drive in seeking, in client owners seeking to influence change and reduce ultimate change orders?
Yes, I think
You
the intention is certainly there. I think from the client's point of view, I think early on in a project, it's about that journey with client and contractor, and I think the longer a project runs, the relationship can become a bit frayed. So I think what we're seeing now, a little bit in some of our projects, is that re-strengthening of relationships and making it one journey. Change is inevitable; it's going to happen, but everybody wants to be able to get to the solution together. Everybody wants to work together. The programs on these projects are tight enough as it is, without having that collaborative relationship to reduce those changes.
Okay. I see, Fran, you've asked the question in the comments, but I brought you into the panel. Do you want to ask the question direct? Are you happy to do that if you unmute? Or do you want me to read it straight from the question? Okay. I'll bring it in from the question panel. Okay. So you discussed the design construction side, but change and impact assessment is a challenge for the end finished assets, buildings, etc. How does the owner operator manage handover, an empty black box on your chart, and the continuous impact analysis of continuous changes? Who wants to take that one? Scott?
Yeah, sure. So, sorry?
You happy to take that question? Yeah.
Yeah. I think a few of us can combat that one, definitely, because we're going through.
I think that's one for everybody, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. We're in the industry, definitely in this, in the UK and London, we're going through some very tricky handover of information at the moment. So it's just about getting everybody on board, and getting one common point. So the CDE is critical, but the pathways of information from all these different subcontractors, all these different information points, the pathways need to be clear to get into that CDE. There needs to be software to facilitate the capture. There needs to be the right people enabled to help push for the right information. I think there is some upskilling within the industry we need to do. We need to also support our supply chain, and we need to figure out what it is we want earlier. What we're seeing at the moment in one of our projects is sometimes contracts king, and the information isn't. The information is what is going to allow the owner to maintain, obviously. So we need to really think about that as not companies, everybody, professionals. It's really a sticking point right now. What Sandeep feels about that from.
I think it's a great question. Yep, we can hear you, Fran.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure you're answering the question. You're saying everybody has to agree in process. I'm talking about the life cycle of an asset. The change detection, stuff like that, construction design, that's one phase. But the facility itself, the building and its assets and managing that and the changes, that's a bigger problem. That's, 80% of the issue is the end user managing the assets, the building and all. We're not moving walls generally. Well, we may be doing that now with the virus, moving walls. But the whole impact now, so electrical system. I'm going to go shut down this panel, this electrical system. What's it going to affect?
Yeah.
Both in mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, it may have a whole ripple effect in doing that. Understanding that change process, that's really the focus. I know the construction and, that phase and all. And in some ways, this may be a self-advertised thing. We can talk later, but that's what Agile Handover I work with is doing. We're focusing on the facility manager and the functions at the end and gathering all the data. You really need to gather all the data and the information for the facility manager and pass it on. That little black box handover is a big hole. It's a big hole. And it's not just the handover, it's also the ongoing maintenance and control and understanding of all the assets that are, the big assets, the building itself, and all the other assets within the building.
Yeah. Okay.
I understand what you're doing. You're change detection and all that stuff, and I think that's important. And I understand you may be focusing on that. That's your core competency there. But I think there's a big gap. And in general, you're talking about building processes. There's a movement now towards a lot of software. It's either part of the no-coder or the processor, where people are building tools to automate processes. May come under the umbrella of the Robotic Processing Association and that type of thing. So I think there's going to be generic tools that are going to be coming that will enable you to overlay process automation, so to speak, even during construction.
Yeah. Fran, can you just hold it there a minute? Sandy, you want to come in on that?
Yeah, no, I think Fran is right. I think our focus is definitely in the construction phase, but he's quite right. But I think what I would like to add is some of the projects, what I've noticed is that obviously handover is a key part. You construct something and you hand over, and then that basically sets the template for the next 20 years of maintenance, in some ways. But the thing is, what we've noticed is that the handover requirements change. So during the course of construction, the requirements of what needs to be handed over, whether that's coming from the owner or the client, whoever, that changes. And that has a huge impact on the asset information requirements during construction. And that tends to introduce a lot of change in itself, because all of a sudden you were planning on capturing this information, and now there's a new requirement to capture new kinds of information, and that brings about a lot of change as well.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. We could talk offline or some other time. I would like to follow up on some discussion on that in general.
Hugh, do you want to add anything to that?
I think that was mostly covered. Yeah, I think, yeah.
Okay, fine. I got another question here. We talked about technology just a couple of questions back, but one of the questions I've got here is how much scope do you see for using, and I'm talking specifics here, for using VR in the approval process and subsequent construction process? Scott, do you want to take that one?
VR?
Virtual reality.
VR or VR?
VR.
VR, virtual reality. Emerging technology, I think, is it's not. I don't know what I've seen. It's not there yet. It's not my favourite for approvals. To visualize what you're looking at. So potentially, I see design reviews using getting an architect in a room, reviewing the design. We see that works. We see health and safety scenarios through VR. I think that works. That's very powerful. You put someone in a cab of an excavator. I think approving. I've not seen enough there yet. I'm not quite sure. I don't know about yourself, Sandy, with the virtual reality.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think you're quite right. It's an emerging technology. I think at the moment, I certainly see a lot more scope for mixed reality or augmented reality, and you can see that already. And I think that will increase with better hardware in the next in the medium term or even the short term, I think. Virtual reality will be interesting. I think it can be a game changer eventually, but I do think it's a bit further away, and I don't. And specifically to approvals, I'm not quite sure. That would be my answer. I think there are other areas where it can be very useful. But
This
yeah,
goes,
so I don't see at the moment.
this goes
Okay.
back to the
Much
whole
more.
question, I think. The Apple glasses, potentially, when we see them.
Okay. Anybody else want to add anything to that, or shall I move on to the next question?
Yeah, with what Sandeep said, I think there's a lot more with the augmented reality at the start of projects. You're showing key stakeholders. You can show them with Apple iPads. You can overlay in real time the design, what the design bin model is going to look like here on a project. So I think it's quite handy to walk around a site at the start of a project and actually just show stakeholders what will be built where, and then you can talk about change maybe at the start of the process if they can actually visualize that on site, and then you can go from there. So I think there's definitely advantages with augmented reality.
Okay. Fran, have you got anything to add to that? Fran, anything to add?
Oh, I'm sorry. My mute came back. Now, well, everything is moving. The AR, XR, whatever and it's really sort of upgraded now, and it's all the digital twins, movement in general. And I'm not sure when the birth of a digital twin happens. It's sort of a mystical, magical thing as you're constructing something, or is it set in place at birth, when it finally becomes a finished product, and then you create the digital twin? So,
Sure.
the AR and VR stuff, in my opinion, becomes more marketing oriented until you really get into making a full connection. I think in the whole life cycle space, real value isn't going to come until you integrate IoT and the VR, AR, and digital twin stuff in the end.
Okay, thanks, Fran. We're nearly at the hour. We have a few more questions yet. Anyway, the next question I've got here is: if asset operators were to be involved at an earlier stage, do you see opportunity to influence not only the design but the long-term maintenance? Scott, do you want to take that?
Yes, yeah, yeah, I do. Testing, commissioning strategies, yes. Inventories, yes. Getting the right materials, get procured earlier. Yeah, I think that would be imperative. I think Fran would agree. I've not seen that input collaboration personally enough. I think from our side, where we're supporting, whether it's the M&E fit out or we're supporting the concrete installation, I think we drastically need that input from the maintainer and the operators, definitely, from whatever facility. And I'd be happy to join anyone to start collaborating with them on that, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that should be coming from the design phase and the owner operator who worked to do the initial design stuff. It's not like, and the whole specifications that get tied in here that are written up. There needs to be a better connection, I think. I think
Yeah.
Certainly the construction phase and the work you're doing, there's been tremendous improvements, and it continues to be tremendous improvements in the process and things there. But I still don't think we have the full life cycle processes down and working well. I'm seeing a tremendous amount of activity now on the facility management space that is involving more and more the integration of OT and IT, and that whole movement, it's going to change, and it's being triggered a lot by the changes, by the pandemic. Facilities are changing drastically. They're adapting. Even new construction that's going on. During the construction phase, there's things that are happening, but now we're reconstructing, rethinking how we're building these things. And God knows, what's going to happen to physical space. Is it going to contract? It certainly is going to change, if nothing else. So I think we got to sort of look ahead to find out, what are the main assets, the buildings and all the assets within the buildings, what are going to be the new needs that we have there, and start to integrate them back into the construction phase. I just hear so many stories and things, especially in healthcare. Surprisingly, at least here in the United States, I'm not sure what's happening. There are mega mergers that are now being dissolved in the healthcare space. Hospitals that were working together, spaces that were being built and not being built. It's an amazing change. And you talk about change detection, things like that. We got to be looking at the change detection of the total environment and what's happening in the worldwide space, not just on our little project. And certainly a Crossrail project is no little project, but what does it mean? We really have to sort of accelerate, the whole transportation mode and how we redesign. Maybe we should have new cars. Are we going to put plastic panels? Are we going to walk into a plastic box or something and get in? I don't know. I'm rambling a little bit, but I think you get my point.
Anybody? Sorry, yeah. Sandeep, Hugh, do you want to add something?
No, I think it's that is the need of the hour. I think, as I mentioned earlier, there needs to be very close interaction and requirements, and need to come directly from the owner operator, and they need to be focused towards what they need to maintain an asset, because that's 80% of the life cycle of an asset.
Right.
So yeah.
I've got one more question here. Keep the questions coming in, guys. This question here is: what are the measures? What measures are you currently seeing? I know you touched on a little bit before, but scope creep and ripple effect of change orders. How is that currently managed through the process? Scott?
So not optimized, not collated together correctly. There's huge improvements there. I'm talking about some of the projects that we're on, obviously. Some of the projects connections with, the ripple effect, it's butterfly effect. It's huge. As we were looking at with the CMS, there's small little incremental change can vastly disrupt. If you change the CMS, you change the testing and commissioning program and plan and everything to do with that. You've got your end assets to think of that you've got to get commissioned, installed, signed off. It's there in pieces, it's piecemeal, and it's just stitching that together. It's like a patchwork quilt a little bit, I think. Not every project's the same. There will be obviously good cases and bad cases, but I think the environment, the communities like these need to support that a bit more as well, potentially. Hugh, I think you're seeing the same.
Yeah, agree with Scott. Obviously, if scope creep isn't managed well, can cause a lot of ripple as down the line and can create a bigger issue than it actually is. So if that's managed well, then I think, definitely something to improve on.
Okay. So let me ask another question. This is a general question and open to everybody. So your presentation, Scott, Hugh, today, really good, covered all the points, the main points. In terms of improving productivity for a project, how much of a percentage improvement would you say it could make to the average major project, do you think, if all the points that you covered today were taken on board and factored in? What would you say?
Well, it's hard to put a number on it, but
Ballpark.
Ballpark it.
ballpark it. Oh, well, going back to that fishbone diagram, there was, there was
18 steps,
18 revisions.
one change.
Yeah, so
So if we get 8% of that reduced, that's over how many days?
it was over 2.5 years.
2.5 years.
So
You can take 8 to 12% off.
Right. This is a whole subject for later. This is yeah, absolutely. This is a whole subject to talk about later. I think we could go on for hours on this because I've got some ideas, and I know a few other people have got ideas on this as well. And I think we should take it offline and develop it. It certainly fits into the one of the productivity initiatives that COMIT's running, as you know, where change orders could be reduced significantly if they followed some of the points you made and some of these others that I've got here. So I think we maybe take that offline. I've got a more of a statement really from Nathan. Thanks, Nathan, for this. Nathan comes in and says, happy to talk more about the use of VR, but we've moved on now, and I think we need a whole presentation about it. I will take that offline with you, Nathan. I know we had a discussion already about this, and thanks for tuning in today. And yeah, we should get together and look at the opportunity there. If there's no more questions, I think that's it now. Is any? What I'm going to do is I'm going to go around the room, unless any other questions come in while we're chatting. Hugh, I'm going to go clockwise or anti-clockwise from where I see it. Hugh, any parting shots before we close up?
no, I think it was just, yeah, we just need to get better communication. So, the left hand's talking to the right hands and everyone knows what's going on and what's coming down the pipeline. So it's not just the people down at the bottom who are actually building the stuff get lumped with something that they didn't know was coming. So if we can just get everyone on board and on the same page, I think that's going to see a lot of improvement. Sure.
Scott?
Two things, just like to thank you very much for having us. And I'd like to welcome any interested parties. We're seeking for data as part of this research program. So if there's anybody that thinks there was something there that could potentially help them and they have a data set to look at, we'd love to get involved. So please feel free to Twitter handle, LinkedIn, whichever way you like. But thank you again, Stuart.
No worries. Great to have you guys. Sandy? Yeah, sorry, Sandy, you're muted.
I keep forgetting. No, same sentiments here. Thanks for the opportunity, and feel free to get in touch with us. We've got a number of projects going. Some are funded by Innovate UK, some are through other means. But at the end of the day, we want to work with problems that we can solve. So, and it's not very easy to find, or someone openly share problems and data sets so that we can, look at something and say, okay, well, this is how we can solve this.
Sure. Jerry, I know you're muted at the moment. Oh no, you're unmuted now. Anything you want to add?
Just to say, well done to enable my team. Great presentation. I've got a cheeky question for Fran, but that can wait for 5 minutes.
Okay.
Unless you want me to ask now. Do you want me to ask it now? Go on.
Yeah, go on.
Go on. I'm wondering how long you're going to grow your beard, Fran, because you're looking so Father Christmas-y.
Well, I wish Christmas was here and we could fast forward 4 or 5 months through wherever we're at. But anyway, I'm doing well. A couple new things that I'm doing. I'm now working with AFE.org, which is the Association for Facility Engineers. They have a journal that I'm editing and putting content towards, and That will be coming out shortly. We have an e-learning portal. There's lots of stuff. I won't bore people and tell you, but we'll talk about it later. And hopefully
Thanks,
try
Fran.
to work it some way.
Thanks,
But
Fran. Thank you for that.
final comment here. Just one final comment. Data is the new capitalism. It's actually a book that's out now. And it really is subtle, because what's happening now is you'll see more and more models that collecting data and analyzing data is becoming, I don't know, in digital health and in construction. The only way we'll be able to create real metrics is to capture more and more metrics. And the capturing metrics, then you analyze it, and the cycle continues. That's the way we're going to improve construction and operations and everything really in our society. So anyway,
Thank you,
that's
Fran.
my new plug.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Okay, so tune in on the 25th at 3:30 for a session on 4D all-round improved construction, and that's the link. I'll be posting this video by Monday, so you'll be able to see it there, and it'll be on the COMIT homepage. Thanks to the sponsors, O2 and Rebim, once again, for their great support. Continual question, do we post the videos? Yes, they're all available on the website and accessible through YouTube. So continue the conversation, and we'll see you all in the next session. So thanks very much for joining. Fran, did you want to have a word afterwards? If you can, just
Yes.
stay on the line. Stay on the line.
And Jerry, you can
have a chat. But thanks to everybody. It's been great. Thanks for the questions. The audience has been fantastic. I think we've opened a large box of dialogue here. So thanks very much, guys. And we'll see you all in the next one. Cheers now.
Hey, Scott, I'm going to try and follow up with you and talk later.
Okay. Cheers. Thank you.